Hello everyone, this is Asif. I'm the host for today. Welcome to Prodigy webinar series and good afternoon to folks in China and Taiwan, and good morning to folks in Europe. And we're going to start the session, and the topic for today is SPMI protocol analysis and debug, right? So we've been doing a lot of webinar series, and this is another topic for today on SPMI protocol. So a couple of rules, right? I mean, a couple of things you need to know before we get started. This session is roughly going to be for 1 hour. So first 45 minutes is going to be the presentation, and the last 15 minutes is the Q&A session, Q&A part, right? So you can feel free to ask your questions towards the end of the webinar. So there's a Q&A tab in the Zoom. So you can go there and type in your questions, and we'll be happy to take it towards the end of the session. Okay. And the session is also going to be recorded. So in case you have some internet connection issues, or you're leaving early or so on, you'll get the whole session recorded and it will be emailed to you towards the end. Right? So let me get started. Let me introduce two extreme panelists today. So I have two speakers, Mr. Prajesh and Mr. Anuj. So let me give a brief background of Prajesh and Anuj, and then we can get started, right? So Prajesh, he has extensive experience in FPGA-based development. He's done a lot of RTL design. He's done a lot of ASIC IPs as well. So he comes with a rich background of system-level design knowledge and architecture, component selection as well. So he's worked in various companies like Delphi, Bosch, Synopsys, Samsung, Cambian Networks before joining Prodigy. And he's been there in Prodigy for quite some time now, and he heads the hardware development team here. And along with Prajesh, we have Mr. Anuj Chanbag. He is considered as an expert in SPMI. He was he worked earlier on the SPMI version 1 specification, then he worked on the SPMI version 2 specification. He's a FPGA design engineer. He's got lots of hands-on experience in debugging hardware issues, as well as he's been helping a lot of customers who have had SPMI issues in their evaluations, and a couple of other protocols as well, right? So welcome to the webinar series. So I will hand over right now to Prajesh and Anuj, and they are going to take it forward. Prajesh, over to you.
Hi, hi, or good morning and good afternoon. So we'll start with the webinar session. So today we're going to discuss about SPMA protocol basics and Prodigy's SPMA exerciser and analyzer product. So we'll have a live demo of the product. Anuj will be giving the live demo. So this is the agenda for today. So we'll be going over SPMI overview. Then we'll talk about SPMI system, SPMI major features, SPMI protocol basics. So we may not be going into very detailed timing aspects of the protocol because this time may not be enough to discuss all that, but we'll cover most of the concepts. And we'll be talking about SPMI master and slave arbitration, bus initialization, SPMA slave, then SPMA command sequence, and then we'll have a live demo of the Prodigy's analyzer and exerciser product. So SPM is basically a two-wire bidirectional serial interface. So there is SCLK and SData line. So this protocol is basically used to control the supply voltage of within an SOC. So basically it connects the integrated power controller in the SOC with the power management IC. And within the power controller, SPMI function is referred to as a master, and within the PMIC, the function is referred to as a slave. And protocol supports up to 4 masters and up to 16 slaves. And it supports 1.28 volt, 1.2 volt or 1.8 volt standard. So this is how a typical SPMA system looks like. You have multiple SOCs, and there can be a single interface inside one SOC, or there can be multiple interfaces, and all are connected in a wired AND configuration. And you may have uh, up to 16 slave devices, again with single function logical function or with multiple logical function. So all these are connected in a wired AND configuration with a pull down resistor on the bus. Anyway, we'll go into the details when we talk about the protocol. So since as for the protocol, there can be 4 masters. So any of these masters can talk to any of the slaves, or even there is something called a request capable slave. Anyway, we'll come to that. So if you just, the major features, it supports multi-master and multi-slave configuration. So bus arbitration process is used to decide who will be having access to the bus at a particular instance. And it supports master connection, disconnect and disconnection sequence. So basically when the system starts up, there can be a master already present on the bus, or there may not be any master. So if there is already a master, then the transaction can happen based on the arbitration. But if there is no master, then there is something called a connect sequence. So a master is needed on the bus basically to generate the clock, so that other devices, including the request capable slave, can start the communication. And it supports slave initiated communication, basically supported with request capable slave. So slave, yeah, and it supports ACK and NAC response for robust communication. It supports unique master ID and unique slave ID for identifying the device on the bus. Supports parity bit for error detection and correction. And it supports 2 different speed classes: low speed up to 15 megahertz and high speed up to 26 megahertz. So getting into the protocol basics, bits are sent MSB first, and each SPMI transaction is sent as sequences. So basically the sequence start with an arbitration procedure where multiple masters and request capable slaves arbitrate on the bus to get access to the bus to send the command. And then arbitration process is followed by a command sequence. Command sequence has 4 phases. One is sending the SSC, is like a sequence start condition, then followed by transmission of frames. So frames can be command frame followed by 1 or more data frames, and followed by an ACK bit, and then later with the bus park cycle. So we'll come to the timing or the protocol details later. So arbitration procedure is to give the bus control to the master or RCS slave who is requesting for the bus access. And sequence start condition is like when the SCLK line is low, and then if S data line goes high and low. So you see a rising edge and a falling edge transition on the S data line when the SCLK line is low. That is called the sequence start condition. So this is the first phase of any command sequence. So SSC is used by a slave or master to identify the start of a command sequence. So anybody who is listening on the bus will also look for this SSC to understand, okay, some transaction is going on the bus or the bus is idle. So basically the bus owner master generates the SSC. So this bus owner master is the master currently having control of the bus. So bus owner master basically generates the clock on the bus. So the bus ownership is decided again based on the arbitration. So we'll discuss about the arbitration in detail in the coming slides. Uh, Now coming to the next phase, frames. There are 3 different types of frames. command frames, which is of 13 bits, data and address frames, which is of 9 bits, and no response frames can be 9 or 13 bits. So the command frame format looks like this. So you have a slave address, 16 slaves supported, there can be 4 bits per slave address, then followed by command payload bits, then a parity bit, and the same way. So this is for the slave access, and then same way, say if it is for the master, there can be 2 master, so 2 bits for the master address, and then command payload bits followed by parity bit. So data and address field, it's data or address payload bits followed by the parity bit. No response frame is a special kind of frame where all bits are 0, including the parity bit. So this will be helpful, say uh, uh, if a transaction is initiated to read a register, but the slave is not ready to give the data, so maybe it can just return a no response frame. Since all bits are 0, it understands that it's a no response frame. So again, you can actively drive 0, or you can make use of the pull down resistor on the bus to drive 0. So you basically tri-state the bus or the leave the bus. So the pull down resistor will make the bus to go to logic level 0. Parity bit, SPMA protocol supports odd parity. So which means basically total number of ones in the bit stream is odd. Uh, and then ACK NAC, it consists of 2 cycles that are used to confirm the correct completion. So device generating the command sequence generate a bus per cycle to transfer control of the S data line to the access device. And after the bus per cycle, the ACK NAC bit is driven by the device. Yeah. Now bus per cycle. So device with ownership of the S data initiates a bus per cycle on S data at the end of a sequence, or when the device transfer control of S data to another device. So this is basically used for the bus turnaround cycle when the if the bus S data control is given to the another device, say for example for a read access, it defines a uh, bus park cycle where it helps the other device to uh, take care of the internal processing and then take control of the bus. So the device releasing the S data drives S data signal to the logic level 0 during the first half of SCLK, and thereafter puts its S data driver into the high impedance state. So basically it drives 0 for first half and then it leaves the bus so that others can start driving it after the cycle. So the bomb controlling the sequence. Other important thing is bus idle condition. So this will be used by other devices, especially when a new master is trying to connect to the bus. It may look for the bus idle condition to decide whether to start generating the arbitration request or not. So bus idle is defined by both S and S data line held low. So bus is always in idle condition between the end of a command sequence and the beginning of bus arbitration. So for every command sequence start with an arbitration. So once the command is ended, again the bus goes to idle. So the new arbitration cycle and the command sequence can begin. Now coming to arbitration, devices share the bus using a bus arbitration procedure to determine which device has control of the bus at a given time. So as already mentioned, a specific master called bus owner master. So master will be always the bus owner master. So he will always will be uh, having control of the SCLK generation. But if there are even if there is only one master, there can be a request capable slave on the bus which can initiate which can request for arbitration. So it has to still uh, perform the arbitration uh, sequence. So there are two different types of arbitration: master and slave arbitration. So uh, and in master arbitration there are two different. One is primary and the secondary. So basically round robin method is used for arbitration sequence so that everybody gets a fair chance on the bus. There are four different priority levels defined, starting from arbitration level 1, 2, 3, and 4. So highest priority is for the slave request. We'll come to this details like what is A bit, what is SR bit and all, but slave request with the A bit set has the highest priority. Then master priority arbitration comes second. Then slave arbitration using the SR bit, and then master secondary arbitration at the end. So this is a typical arbitration sequence. Sequence is used for a new master to get connected if there is if an already existing master uh, is on the bus and then they want to initiate a transfer, so they need to basically arbitrate. So in that case, this is if it is there is no new master trying to get connected to the bus, so that means this connect bit, whatever you are seeing here, yeah, this field will not be driven. So if you see here, arbitration starts with this S data line getting pulled high, and then once that happens, the SCLK starts coming. Then in the connect field, connect bit time, nobody is driving, so that means no new master is trying to get connected on the bus. Then uh, the master will start driving the MPL field. So basically MPL field is the master priority level. So based on this MPL value, the highest priority master will get the access, will win the arbitration, and then whoever wins will generate the SSC on the bus so that the frame SPMA frame transfer can start. So master priority level is nothing but there are for highest to lowest level, 4 levels, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So whoever is the current winning master, so based on his current MPL, the next priority will be decided. So basically, if it is at the highest priority, it will add +3, so it will become the lowest. So if it is 1, it will add +2. If it is 2, it will add +1, like that. So basically, the same uh, number is added for everybody, so that everybody's priority, all the masters' priority will get adjusted every time. So this is an example where say master ID 0, 1, 2, and 3 are there on the bus, and for sequence N, master ID 0 has MBL 0, then master ID 1 has MBL 1, 2, and 3, and 2 are requesting here for N+1 cycle. MBL 1 is requesting and MBL 3 is also requesting. So here MBL 1 wins the arbitration. So for the next sequence, its MPL will become 1 will become 3. That means it added 2 to 1 to make it 3. So everybody adds 2. So master ID 0 MPL become 2. Master ID 2's MPL becomes 2 plus 2. Basically, it is traps around, and then so it becomes 0. And master MPL 3 becomes 1, like that. So in the next cycle again, these two masters are requesting. And the one with the lowest MPL, MPL1, he wins the arbitration. So his MPL for the next phase becomes 3 automatic. Whoever wins becomes 3. So to make it 3, it needs to add 2 to it. So everybody adds 2. Basically 2 becomes 0, 3 becomes 1, 0 becomes 2, like that. Uh, yeah, so this is slave arbitration. So it is similar, except that here the slave is driving is basically based on the slave address. So it is like 4-bit address. C bit is not set, then master arbitration is not there, then 1 and 0. These bits are driven, and based on that, with the so this is using the A bit, which is the highest priority, and then the second one is using the SR bit. So basically, it shows bits in the sequence starting from the master priority arbitration. So slave arbitration, then master priority arbitration, then this is using the A bit. A bit is not driven, so there is no slave arbitration using A bit. Then master priority arbitration, uh, nobody is driving. So then the SR bit is driven. That means there is a slave arbitration happening with the SR bit. So the corresponding address will be driven on the slave address. So these are here if C bit is not driven, the corresponding procedure for the connect sequence will not be performed. If A bit is not driven, the corresponding procedure for the A bit based arbitration will not be happening. So in this case, A bit was driven. That is why the slave arbitration using A bit happened. In here, A bit is not driven, so it goes to the next one. First is slave arbitration, then it goes to the master priority arbitration. Here even no master is there to arbitrate. So all 4 cycles, it is 0. Then comes the slave secondary arbitration. So that bit is driven. So then the slave secondary arbitration is performed. Yeah, so now master arbitration with connect sequence. So I think the previous case we saw without connect sequence. So this is with connect sequence. So basically what happens is if there are say 2 masters on the bus and a new master gets added on the bus when the bus is active, then the new master needs to connect to the bus, and it needs to calculate its own priority level so that it can do the arbitration or for the command sequence. So basically what happens is if the connect in this case, say if once it sees the uh, bus. Okay, there are 3 different types procedures used for connecting to the bus. One is by detecting the SSC. So basically, uh, all master, if it wants to connect to the bus, it keeps monitoring the SSC, whether SSC is happening on the bus or not. So once SSC is seen, then it will try to it calculates that, and then it it can it knows that bus initiate. Other one is like explicitly looking for the bus idle condition and then initiate the uh, arbitration request for connecting. Or otherwise, just looks for the bus arbitration request. If somebody is arbitrating, just keep a watch on it, and then you drive the connect bit. You drive during the connect bit. So basically here, the arbitration request. So the master identifies the arbitration request, and then it drives the connect bit high so that it is informing the bus owner master that I want to get connected to the bus. So in this case, when this connect bit is set, the bus owner master will drive its MID on the bus so that the connecting master can calculate its own MPL value. So we will explain that how it is calculated. So connecting master drives the C bit, and then if connect bit is set, the current bus owner master will drive its MID, and then it follows the remaining procedure. So the difference is, in the previous case, connect bit was not set. So these 3 cycles were whatever I explained. Since here the connect bit is set, another 3 more cycle will come where the master will drive the MID value on the bus. So it's all based on whether a particular event happens, then only the corresponding cycles will be executed. Same way for connect sequence and master and slave arbitration. So here connecting master calculates the master priority level using the BOMS MID. So this is just a predefined table as per the spec. So depending on the present master's MID, the connecting master's MPL value will be decided. So this is directly from the spec. So then connected master calculates new MPL using its current MPL during master arbitration. Remaining procedure is same. So once it has its MPL, then for any arbitration, any future arbitration, it calculates the new MPL based on the normal arbitration procedure explained before. So maybe Anuj can take over from here. So I think he'll be, maybe I think there are a few more slides on the command sequence, and then he will give a live demo of our product. Yeah, Anuj, you can proceed.
Hello everyone. So I'll be talking a few more in detail regarding arbitration and initialization procedure. So as it's already mentioned, there are 3 ways for the master to connect to the bus. That is by detecting SSC, by detecting idle, and as well as by detecting arbitration request. So initially the bus, SPMI bus will be initialized. That means no master is having any control over the bus, and the connecting master does not know whether any other slave or master is present on the bus. So the initialization happens when one or more master wakes up at the same time. So when a slave requests for arbitration, every master will start an internal clock time, which is MID plus 1 into TBT. So TBT is 96 microseconds. So if a master has a MID of 0, it will wait up to 96 microseconds whether any other master will provide clock for the arbitration request, or else it will take control of the bus and becomes the bus owner master. And this bus owner master will further respond to any other subsequent request for arbitration from other master as well as request capable slaves. Can you go to the next slide?
Yeah.
So here in the initialization procedure, the RCS or request capable slave is requesting for arbitration on an uninitialized bus. So as you can see, initially the S data goes high. So there are 4 masters with MID 0, 1, 2, 3, and there is something called as a monitoring period. So during this monitoring period, all the masters will wait for an equal interval of 5 into TBT. As I already mentioned, TBT is 96 microsecond. So 5 into TBT. So this is monitoring period, so that all the masters are synchronized to the initialization procedure. So after this time period, the masters will set the S clock high. So these are the 4 X clock lines. So it will set its driver states into high, high. So it will pull the S clock line, all the 4 masters, and based on its MID, it will leave the S clock. So S clock has to be left within 64 microseconds. All masters has to release, and based on its MID, whoever has the lowest MID will start the arbitration clock. So in this procedure, the master with the MID 0, so his timeout will happen at TBT. So master ID 0 can start the arbitration clock cycle at 96 microseconds. So he wins the arbitration on the initialization. So he will start providing the clock, and so he will become the bus owner. So this is bus initialization when a slave requests for arbitration. Can you move to the next slide?
Yeah.
So coming to the slave, so we have been talking about master, about how it connects and how it responds to arbitration. So in slave, SPMI slave cannot drive the S clock line. Only the masters can drive the S clock line, whether it can be bus owner or during the initialization procedure, all the masters can drive the S clock line. And in SPMI, we have two kinds of slaves. One is request capable slave, we call it RCS, and non-RCS slave. So the difference is the request capable slave is also capable of requesting for arbitration. So in SPMI, it's not just that master can initiate the transfer of the data. Even the slave can request for transfer of data, and it can write data into non-BOM masters as well as other slaves or the non-request capable slaves. The non-RCS slaves is there only to respond to the commands. Maybe it can be right, or I'll explain in detail what are the different commands present in SPMI. So the non-request capable slave only responds to these write and read commands. And coming to the arbitration, slave arbitration has two priority levels. We call it A bit and SR bit. So it's alert bit and slave request bit. And the A bit has the highest priority. I'll explain more in detail later. So coming to the register space of a slave. So there are three register space: basic, extended, and extended long. So the maximum register that is supported by an SPMI slave is FFFF. So when there are multiple commands which can access only these particular register space. For example, we have a command called as extended register write. So this command can access the register space only up to FF, as mentioned, the extended register space. If you have an extended long command sequences, write or read, it can support the register space up to the 4Fs. So these are the register spaces. Then coming to the slave operating states, there are four states: startup, active, sleep, as well as shutdown. So these are based on the enable signals given to the slave as well as command. So we have the sleep, wake up. So since this is more related to power, so if you want to go in an idle power state, you can make this slave go into a sleep state until it's required for it to respond to those commands. So these states can be switched by the enable signals, external enable signals, or else we have the particular commands to move the slave from particular state. Can you move to the next slide? Okay, so this is the detailed command sequences that is supported by the version 2.0 SPMI. So one difference between the SPMI version 1.0 and 2.0 is the ACNAC. So in 2.0, the support for acknowledgement and non-acknowledgement bit was added so that we can come to know whether the slave is able to receive the write and the read commands. So I won't go into all the sequence detailedly. So basically the first you can see is extended register write, as I've already mentioned. So it supports up to your extended register space, that is FF. So initially your command frame format sends the 4-bit of slave address. So slave address can go from 0 to 15. So there are 16 slaves supported. So it's a 4-bit. And after writing the slave address on the line, then your command frame starts. So your command frame is unique to those command, which might include parameters like byte count. So you have write or read command, so you can mention the byte count. So the slave knows how many bytes of data is being written to it. So you also have commands like reset, sleep, shutdowns. As I already mentioned, there are 4 states. So these commands are used for the slave to move to those states. You have the authenticate. So this is a kind of a authentication of your slave. So your slave will respond to your particular challenge frames. So you can give 4 bytes of challenge data, and your slave will respond with the response frames if only the challenge data is same as what it's expecting. So this is authentication command for slaves. You also have the master read, master write. So similar to how master can write data to the slaves, it also can write data to your other masters. Your BOM can write or read data from your non-BOM masters, which is present on the bus. Then coming to transfer bus ownership. So if you want to, there are multiple ways of transferring the ownership of the master to others. So one is using arbitration. So one more master requests for arbitration and wins arbitration and sends the data. If our BOM wants to exit the bus or leave the bus, it can just transfer this bus owner sends the command on the bus, and if any master wants to take control of that bus, it will drive its MID and take control of it. Then you have the device descriptor block reads, which reads chunks of data. You have extended register read, write long. So similar, these are write and read commands, which has access to multiple address register spaces. You have more control over byte count and how much bytes of data can be written, as well as you have the acknowledgement and the non-acknowledgement. Then you have the register write and read, which can support only up to address register space 1F. And the last command that is there is register 0 write, which can write data only at the address register location 0. So these are the command sequences present in 2.0 specification. The next. So briefly explaining regarding our product. So our product is a exerciser as well as protocol decoder, or you can say analyzer. So we support one master as well as two slaves in our exerciser unit. So you can see the picture where this is the unit which is connected to a host computer using 3.0 USB interface. And you also have added an external DUT using probes where we give the clock data as well as the individual ground lines. Then the down screenshot what we have attached is the screenshot of our UI. So when I'll be giving the live demo, I'll be explaining the UI in detail. So just briefly explaining the features of our exerciser. We have one master, two slave support. We are able to generate all the SPI commands supported in the specification and the frequency that is supported in the SPMI. That is 32 kilohertz to 26 megahertz, which is divided into a low speed as well as high speed. We support the maximum limit. We also support the voltage levels as 1.2 or 1.8, and we can vary and giving some more user control over the clocks. Like we can vary the duty cycle, we can add delay between the clock and data. And after that, we also have solo master and multi-master control over the data. Solo master case is where only one master is present on the bus, and there is no request capable slave. So there will be no arbitration taking place. So it will be always one BOM transferring write and read commands or data between the slaves. We also support error injections like error, like as we know that parity is odd parity in SPMI. So we are able to insert errors in your data frames, address frames, command frames. We also can insert error in the read commands from the non-RCS slaves. We also support the protocol decode. These things I'll be explaining when I'll be taking the live demo. So the next one.
Yeah, next is demo. So maybe you can take control. You can stay.
So I'll just start with the live demo of the. So this is the UI of our PGY SPMI exerciser protocol decode software. As I already mentioned, just briefly let me explain the setup that I have made here. So I have two SPMI exerciser units connected using probe cables, where each unit is capable of supporting one master and two slaves. And so the unit is connected to my host computer using USB 3.0 interface. So this is a UI where we'll be doing the protocol analysis as well as configuring our unit. We also have Python API support if the user wants to have more control. So just let me explain the UI. So initially, after connecting our unit to the host computer, when you open the software, we need to check the hardware connection. So this verifies whether the hardware is connected to our software successfully. So we get a message saying that the connection has been established. Then coming to a few more details regarding the UI, we support three modes. We have the protocol mode where you will be configuring our exerciser as master or slave, and you will be maybe connecting to your master or your slave and transferring SPMI data. We also have TICS mode, which I'll be explaining in later. So in TICS mode, we have the conformance statement, which is protocol implementation conformance state. So kind of a CTS where you can verify whether your master and slave is meeting the protocol parameter set up by the MIPI alliance. We also have the analyzer mode. So when you want to just see the traffic that is being communicated between your master and slave, and you want our exerciser to act as a silent sniffer. So you have to just connect our unit to your bus and use the analyzer mode, where we won't be sending any commands. We'll just decode the waveform, decode the traffic that is coming on the line and display in the UI. We also support both 1.0 as well as 2.0 SPMI versions. So I'll just add 2.0 in the protocol mode. Coming to this, so I'll be explaining this trigger and all later. So just let me explain how to configure your unit as a master or a slave. So we have 3 different voltage level support. So as we know in SPMI, we have 1.2 as well as 1.8 voltage level supported, but we also have given an extra option for the user as a variable. In the variable path, we are able to change the voltage levels of the bus from 1 volt to 3.3 in the steps of 100 millivolt. So we also have the 1.2 and 1.8, but the only limitation is when we want to use the variable voltage path, we have a frequency limitation of only up to 12.5 megahertz. So if your bus is fixed to 1.2 or 1.8, you can change the voltage levels where you can use our master and slave to the maximum frequency of 26 megahertz that is supported by SPMI. So initially, I'll be setting in the variable voltage level. So the node type I'll be adding is first initially I'll add a master, and the interface is internal or external. So this tells whether you're adding internally our master or slave, or you're connecting external master or slave to our unit. So I'll be adding one master internal to my unit, and termination refers to your pull down resistor. So as SPMI supports a pull down resistor on the slave side, we'll be enabling the pull down. We can disable it if you have your own pull down resistor on the bus. So I'll keep it on. And the master mode, as I was mentioning, solo or multi-master. So this is a multi-master case, and I can give the MID from 0 to 3. So let the MID be 0. So I added the master. Then I'll be adding a slave. So the node type is slave. So the interface again remains internal and the on. So here a couple of other parameters with respect to slave, like USID. So USID can go from 0 to 15 as 16 slaves are supported. You also have group ID. So GSID refers to you can have multiple slaves with one group ID as 3. And when I write any write or read commands using that group ID, it will go to all the slaves which has that particular group ID. And the address space is configurable, which slave I'll be keeping up to the maximum. Also the master mode is again multiple. If I select it as solo, my slave cannot act as a request capable slave. It can only act as non-request. So I have added a slave. So right now I have added one master and one slave internal to my unit, and which can be viewed here in this SPMI network. So here you can save your network and add the network, and you will also be able to view what are the different parameters you have set. So I have configured my slave unit to act as one master and one slave. And coming to the scripts, you have the script as well as the UI mode. You can type the scripts. We also give you a preloaded scripts which you can change and save, or you can type it in your notepad or something else and just copy and paste it. So we give you the preloaded scripts for all the commands. So initially you have the system command. So we have two types of commands, system as well as bus. In the system command, we'll be changing the system parameters of our unit. So you get control over different parameters like frequency, voltage. Since this is a variable voltage path, I can change the voltage. You also have TCO. This is clock to queue delay. This I can give in terms of 4 nanoseconds. And you have the TDC. This is the duty cycle, which we give in 3 options: 25%, 50%, and 75%. And TIMG refers to your inter-message gap. If you have multiple consecutive write-read commands and you want to insert some gap between these two commands, you can use the TIMG, which we can give in microsecond, millisecond, as well as seconds. So right now I'll be setting it at 10 megahertz. 10,000. This is in terms of kilohertz. So 10,000 kilohertz is your 10 megahertz. I'll be setting the voltage to 1.2. Your TCO is 0 as well 50. So this is your default. So now I have set the system parameters, but my master is still in an uninitialized bus. So I have to connect my master, which I have already told in the PPT. We have 3 different methods. So I'll be using the idle method where my master will wait for 96 microseconds, whether the clock and data lines are in the idle state, then it will request for arbitration. If no one else responds to that arbitration request, it will directly take control of that bus. So I have enabled my method 1. Next, I'll be sending a simple write command. So this is your bus command, how it will look like. So you can edit these scripts and save it again, or you can just run these scripts. So I'll be sending a register write command to slave address 5, the slave which I have already added, to the register address 10 with data 1F. So before that, we have to start the analyzer. So this is your start capture button. So when you click on this, we are sensing data from the clock and data lines which is connected to our unit. So we will capture not only our commands that is being sent to our internal slave or external slave, it also capture the transactions between your master and slaves. So I'll run this command. So this is how your commands will be decoded in the UI. So this is your timestamp. We call it relative timestamp. So as I told, it was idle detection method. So my master waited for 96 microseconds, which is being shown here. And then it started the arbitration procedure. We sent the command register write with 10 megahertz, and we have no errors. So we also indicate error if there is any parity error in the data or address frames. I also have multiple scripts which I can. So you can send multiple scripts with consecutive data, or else I can enter some TIMG. So I have sent a register write read long, as well as I'm trying to change the states of my slave. So let me just briefly explain how one of the features of the plot view. So as well as decode result where we'll be showing what data is being transferred. In the plot view, we have the controls like pan, zoom in, zoom out, scroll, as well as you can measure any data if it is inserted between your clock and data lines. You can see it as aligned. We have analyzer resolution of 4 nanosecond, which is more than almost 10 times more than the maximum frequency supported by your SPMI. We also can bit representation. We can see that in the arbitration sequence, C bit, A bit was 0, and our master requested for arbitration. And since there was no other slave or master requesting, we won back the arbitration. We gave the SSC. So this is your SSC sequence start condition. And after that, you have the slave address. So I have sent the slave command to slave ID 5 with register 0 write. This is your command frame. Total, it will be 12 bits with one parity bit. You have the busbar cycle. So busbar cycle is so that the next bit is acknowledgement bits, which the slave has to drive. So the main need of busbar cycle is when you want to transfer the control from one device to another to make sure that the device is in a known state. So in the busbar cycle, the master pulls down the bus to 0 and leaves the bus in the middle of the cycle so that the slave can take control of the bus and drive its acknowledgement bit. So you have multiple commands, register, read, write. You can send multiple bytes of data with address up to FFFF. We will be showing the representation. So this is from the master side. I have the various commands. Now coming to the slave side, as I have already told, I have 2 units. So I have actually connected one external slave to my unit with slave ID 6. So in slave side, we support A bit as well as SR bit. So you have 2 types of arbitration requests. So using A bit, I'm trying to write to the slave ID 6 from 5 to register location 11 with data 11, 12. So I'll just clear the results. So this is how slave arbitration happens. So my slave, which is slave ID 5, requested for arbitration. And since there is already a bus owner master present, he started the arbitration sequence. Our slave requested with A bit, that is the first priority in the arbitration sequence. It drew its slave ID. So this procedure is so that if multiple slaves have requested for arbitration at the simultaneously,
Uh,
only the
Anuj, we are not able to hear. Can you speak a little bit louder? Yeah.
am I audible now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So the main reason for the slave ID being driven after A bit is if multiple slaves have requested for arbitration simultaneously, the slave with the highest SID who will get the will win the arbitration. And to make sure that the same slave will not get the priority again and again, we also have a support called as hold state. So now my slave has driven a data using A bit on the bus. So now the same slave cannot again request for arbitration using A bit. It either has to wait for some other slave to win for arbitration using SR bit, or else it has to request using SR bit, which is the lowest priority. So this makes sure that all the slaves get equal chance in the arbitration. So the rest of the frame will follow the same SSC with the slave ID as well as the rest of the command frame format. I can also send using SR bit. So here my slave has requested using SR bit, and again it has driven its MID. So this is regarding your exerciser mode. We also support trigger, where if you have multiple commands being continuously being driven on the traffic and you want to know when did this particular event occur, so you can set trigger on let me say I want to set trigger on register read command with slave ID of 5. So I'll just set the trigger, and when you start the capture, so I have here multiple commands. So here it is being shown that there's a T. So this shows that a trigger has happened, and all your calculation of your timestamp will be relative from this command. It will also be shown here in the plot view that this was the trigger event that we were waiting for. We also have a SMI connector on our unit where when the trigger happens, we'll send out a pulse which you can connect to your oscilloscope so that you can view these trigger events on the oscilloscope with these waveforms. So this is all related to your exerciser. The analyzer mode is similar where you don't have to configure our unit with master or slave. We just have to start on the software and just click on start capture. We also have the reset.
Yeah, I think Anuj, I think we are running maybe a little short on time. So Asif, shall we stop here and go to the QA session? And then if somebody is interested, maybe we can have a one-to-one demo, detailed demo regarding the complete features of the tool.
So if people have any specific questions, they can start going to the Q&A tab and asking the questions, please. So you can type in your questions because we have another 5 minutes left, so we can answer the questions and take it forward from there. So one of the things, I've got a question here. See, what are the various kinds of error injection which are supported by this protocol analyzer?
Yeah. So we have parity. The main error injection that we have is parity error injections. So the odd parity that is supported by SPMI, which is present for all the data as well as address of the command frame, we can inject these parity errors in those frames from the master side, as well as when you give a read command from the slave side, we can also insert this parity error. So also you can do error control, more control using your TCO if whether your sampling edge is crossing your data. So you control using your TCO as well as frequencies. So these are the error supports we have given.
Okay. There's another question here. How to set up decoding on an oscilloscope equipped with the SPMI decoding?
This software, whatever demo we are giving, is actually only for your computers, which is more related to your protocol decoding. We also have one more product which is oscilloscope based, which I think you can send a query to the team and they'll answer you better.
Yeah. So basically what Anuj is saying, that's another product. This is the protocol analyzer product, which is used to directly decode. I think that's it. So if you have any specific questions, you can directly send an email to us. Anuj, anything you want to add here or? Okay. There's another question. Do we have Any dummy masters or dummy slave?
I'm not able to understand what like dummy master means. Do you want us to just sit
Anuj,
idle?
if you can be a little louder, yeah, that'll help. Yeah.
Yeah. With respect to that question, when you mean dummy master or dummy slave, uh, is it just that we have to just sit idle and just sniff the transactions, or we have to respond to any transactions?
What she's saying is that there is no master or slave are in work.
See, in our product, our product internally supports one master and two slave. So that is how we are doing the demo now. We are enabling our own master and slave. So if there is no external master, I mean, it can be used in even analyzer mode also. So we're not very clear about what is
Yeah,
this
yeah. So
question.
Swati, what you can do is you can just write the specific question to us. So Prajesh, if you can display the contact email ID slide, that will help us.
Okay.
Our people
Yeah.
write the questions. So there's so any questions are there, you can do it contact@prodigytechno.com. So if you have the last slide, of the presentation. Yeah. Yeah. So any other questions here? Okay, there's another couple of more questions I have. See, what is the maximum register space supported in the slave?
We support the maximum that is given in the SPMI specification, that is FFFF, which can be divided into your three register spaces. That is a basic, extended, and extended long. So while adding the slave, as I told, so you can configure what is the maximum supporting you want our slave to respond to. So you can, even though we have the support to the entire, you can make sure that our slave responds only up to 1F or to the FF or only to the extended register space.
Yeah, I think there's one more last question here. Does the RCS slave support hold state for arbitration?
Yes, we support both A bit as well as SR bit hold, which is important so that all the slaves get equal chance in winning the arbitration. Otherwise, it will always be like the slave with the highest SID will win the arbitration every time. So when a slave requests for A bit, it will hold its data until it observes a sequence where A bit is low, or else any other slave has won the arbitration using A bit.
Thank you, Anuj. I think I can take one last question if there is anything specific. One last question if anybody has. Okay, because we are running out of time. Okay. No, any more questions? No. If there's any question, please go and type it. Okay. So I don't see any other questions here. So thank you, Prajesh. Thank you, Anuj, for the wonderful presentation and taking your time and presenting it. And thanks everyone for joining, Prodigy webinar series and attending and listening patiently. The session is recorded. It will be emailed to you. And if you want any specific questions with respect to SPMI protocol analyzer, what you can do is you can set up a one-on-one discussion. So we have our email ID displayed here, contact@prodigytechno.com. You can write to us. Or if you have a demo which is required, you can also write an email to us. We will be happy to set up a demo with you guys. Oh, and thanks everyone for taking your time and making this webinar happen. And thanks everyone. I'm wrapping up the session here. Thank you.
Thank you.